At this point, we are pretty deep into the postseason, with conference finals in both the East and the West nearing their halfway points. We started with 16 teams competing for the ultimate goal of bringing home a championship, and we are left now with just 4 remaining. There have been a ton of ups and downs throughout, there have been major surprises, some disappointments, and a lot of fun moments all around, so I feel like we have a big enough sample size to judge how certain teams and players have performed. With that being said, this brings us to the topic of today's video and tomorrow's video, where we will be discussing the 5 biggest winners and losers of the postseason to this point. This will be a 2-part series, with this video obviously being about the winners, and next video discussing the opposite end of the spectrum, being the biggest losers of the playoffs this year, so make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on to stay tuned. With that being said now, let's begin. The first winner of the 2020 NBA playoffs we will be discussing is the biggest and most obvious choice, being Lebron James of the Los Angeles Lakers. When LeBron made the move to Los Angeles 2 years ago, he was faced with a ton of skepticism and doubt about whether or not he would still be able to compete for championships, or if he just moved to LA to set himself up for the next stage of his career outside of basketball. Admittedly, last season went about as poorly as it possibly could have for him and the team, with LeBron missing the playoffs for the first time since he was a teenager. Even this season, with all of the moves the team made in the offseason, there were still some doubts about whether LeBron would be able to flip the switch in the playoffs at age 35 and take his game to another level like he has all throughout his career. But right now, he and the Lakers are sitting pretty, and LeBron is once again silencing the critics. They easily handled both the Trailblazers and Rockets in 5 games, they currently lead the Nuggets 2-0 in the conference finals, and LeBron seems sharper than ever out there. In the playoffs so far, he's averaging 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists per game, while shooting 55% from the field and 36% from 3, and what may be most noteworthy of all is the fact that he's been genuinely impactful as a defender, willing to take on difficult assignments in crucial moments. He may not have the quickness and pure explosiveness that he had in his younger days, but he's playing the smartest basketball of his life, and right now, it looks like the finals are the Lakers to lose. If LeBron manages to win a ring number 4, his legacy gets yet another boost, making him an easy winner this year. Speaking of the Lakers, the next big winner we'll be discussing is actually LeBron's teammate Anthony Davis. Davis's career to this point has been nothing but untapped potential, and last season his reputation hit an all-time low. After playing in New Orleans for 7 seasons and only managing to win 1 playoff series in that span, his ability to produce at the highest level and contribute to a winning team was up in the air. On top of all of that, last season he essentially quit on his team after getting fed up with the situation and basically forced his way out. It was obvious he wanted to play alongside LeBron in LA, but seeing as he was still under contract, a trade needed to be made. Then the trade actually happened in the summer, and the questions became about whether or not the Lakers gave up too much to get him, because if we're being honest, the price they paid was pretty hefty, as promising players like Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, and several draft picks were in the package. Would Davis be enough to help LeBron lift the Lakers back not only to the playoffs, but championship contention? Well, as we see clear as day now, the answer to that question is yes, and Davis looks like the perfect running mate alongside LeBron. He's taken the reins as the #1 scoring option, his defensive impact nearly won him a Defensive Player of the Year award, and as we saw in Game 2 against Denver, if LeBron doesn't have it down the stretch, Davis can be trusted to close things out. It's safe to say he was worth every penny the Lakers spent, and that got proven this postseason. The next winner we'll be discussing from this year's playoffs is Jimmy Butler of the Miami Heat, who also entered the season under a ton of scrutiny and controversy. Jimmy over the last few seasons developed a somewhat negative reputation for being a bad teammate and a locker room issue, so when he left the Sixers, who had just lost to the NBA champions in devastating fashion in Game 7, for Miami, who hadn't even made the playoffs that last year, his motive to win was questioned. I don't think anybody outside of Miami saw saw coming how good of a team they would be this year, but obviously Jimmy had the longest view in the room and knew exactly what he was doing. Not only that, but it's now proven that every team Jimmy leaves gets substantially worse, and everywhere he goes improves drastically. Jimmy is a hard worker that pushes those around him to get the best out of them, and he gets along with others that buy into giving their all on the court and playing tough basketball. This Miami team is as tough as they come, and not only that, but they also play the perfect brand of basketball to benefit Jimmy's game. They have shooters all over the place, they have one of the most promising and versatile young big men in the league with Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy's ability to attack the basket and create plays is often what takes them home down the stretch. A lot of people have doubted whether Jimmy could be the best player on a title contender, and this year is clearly proving that it is in fact possible. The next winner of the 2020 NBA playoffs we'll be discussing is Jamal Murray of the Denver Nuggets. Murray has been in the NBA for 4 years now, and every year he'd inch closer and closer to showing his star potential, but just never seemed to be able to get over the hump. He's had moments of greatness in the past, but he's been one of the most inconsistent players in the league throughout his career, which is where a lot of the frustration with him came from. For example, in a stretch of 4 games this season, he had point totals of 28 in the first game, then 6 the next game, then 28 again in the next game, and then 8 in the last one. That summarizes the Jamal Murray experience prior to the playoffs, but something seems to finally have clicked with him in this year's playoffs, and he's been putting it all together on a much more consistent basis. He's had 4 games with over 40 points, 2 of which were for 50 points, and his ability to catch fire and take over a game is a big reason why the Nuggets are still alive in the conference finals. The Nuggets needed him to play like a star that he was capable of being, and he's done so, and even though they're down in the series to the Lakers right now, it's undeniable that the Nuggets have had a very strong showing in the playoffs this year. Which, speaking of the Nuggets, the final winner we'll be discussing in this video is Murray's teammate Nikola Jokic. Jokic is easily one of the most unique players not only in the game today, but honestly ever. He's a center that has better court vision and passing talent than most point guards, he's a strong scorer both inside and out, and the offense actually runs through him. However, he's also a fairly slow player, and throughout his career he's been taken advantage of on defense because of it, especially nowadays with how spaced out the floor is and how often teams bring their bigs out to the perimeter and force defensive switches. Whether or not you can win with a poor defender at center was a worry for the Nuggets, but Jokic has worked incredibly hard to make himself serviceable on that end, and while he's still not a great defender by any means and gets beat every now and then, he's much improved and by no means a liability anymore. His offensive impact is out of this world, and with an improved ability to defend, the Nuggets have made a phenomenal run this postseason. When you bring up superstars, I think Jokic's name has to be included in that list, which may not have been the case before the playoffs started. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below any other players you think should be considered winners from the playoffs. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.